Hi, welcome back to the AWS Summit here in New York with our live coverage on twitch.tv on the AWS channel. My name's Ian, I'm in the evangelism team at AWS, and I'm joined for this next segment by a couple of members of the team that are responsible for the AWS Migration Hub service that was launched earlier today. So do you want to introduce yourself, guys, before I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, my name is Dave Zipkin. I'm the senior manager of the AWS Migration Hub service, and
I'm Mike Sciscenti. I'm the product manager for the AWS Migration Hub.
Great, thanks. Good to have you on the channel with us today.
Thank you for having us.
So when we were recapping the announcements from the keynote this morning, we talked a little bit about the Migration Hub. And we were discussing actually how it fits into usage by a set of developers, which might not always be the focus for the evangelism team at AWS, because we tend to focus on people that are building new apps, new applications using our services. But of course, most applications already exist, right? They're already sitting out there in enterprises. And it was the view of the team when we were discussing this earlier that this migration use case for existing apps is obviously what you're targeting with the service. So, seems like a valuable tool for the audience. Can you talk a little bit about the problem space that you're working in here and what kind of challenges you're trying to help customers overcome with the service?
Yeah, I know we think of migration practitioners as our target customer. And these are people who work often for or with large IT enterprises. They may be part of the company, they may be part of AWS, they may be part of a system integrator that is helping a company migrate. And really, it's their job to move these large portfolios of applications from on-prem into AWS. So we wanted to build a service that helped them with that task.
And we already have some other tools that are valuable here, like the server migration service, and DMS for migrating relational databases, of course. Is your service sits atop those existing services and simplifies access, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, when we look at what we had available to customers, we felt like we had the tools to move individual resources. We had tools to move databases, tools to move servers, but we wanted to have a tool that really helped understand an application, which we've heard is how our customers think about moving things. They want to move the entire application. So the Migration Hub's purpose is to help customers see and think in terms of a portfolio of applications. So they can come to the hub and see both their entire portfolio and how that is being moved to AWS, which ones are in progress, which ones are completed, but they can also look inside an application and see the progress of the individual resources, the servers and databases that make it up, and track the progress of those things one by one. Because we've worked with those other services I mentioned, the database migration service, the server migration service, as well as our partner tools like Cloud Endure and Racimi, and more to come in the future. So as those tools migrate, they're actually telling the Migration Hub how it's going, and we aggregate and centralize that status there. So you can come to a page for a certain application and see how it's going. You can see which is still moving, which is completed, or if there's any errors, what the errors are, so you can go back to that tool and remediate it within the tool.
Okay, can you just introduce these two partners that you mentioned there in a little bit more detail? Because I think they might be new to some of the people that are watching the stream. So what is it that these partners do in the context of this service offering?
Certainly, so the partners I mentioned are Racimi and Cloud Endure, and both have an approach of moving on-prem servers onto AWS. And they generally take the servers as is and bring them over. They have different approaches and they're different in important ways, but they both help accomplish the goal of getting your on-prem servers running in AWS.
Okay, that's great, that's great. One of the things that I wanted to do during this segment was see the interface. So maybe you can walk me through what the process looks like for a customer that's using the service. Adrian did show it briefly in the keynote this morning, but I'd like to just spend a little bit of time on that and understand what the experience looks like for a customer that's using the service and what they're going to see in the AWS console when they do so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Mike, take it away.
Start here with the new user page, and this gives you a good overview for the process and the workflow in the Migration Hub, but it also mirrors how our customers do their migrations and manage them. So you have an optional first step of starting discovery using AWS Discovery tools, and then you start migrating. And from within migration, there's several steps I'll talk about in a second. And then finally, as you migrate in those tools David mentioned, the status shows up in the Migration Hub and you can track it all in one place. So if we got started just by migrating, these are the 4 steps that you would do in order to get started. So first, you would pick the tools that you want to use to migrate, and customers generally will pick multiple tools to migrate. If they're moving databases, they'll probably use the database migration service, and then some combination of our partner tools and our AWS server migration service to move their servers. If SMS isn't in a particular region, they might use Cloud Endure and Racimi to fill that gap, or if there's other things that server migration service cannot do, they may pick Racimi or Cloud Endure for those. And so you go to the tools page to learn more about each of these tools and to learn how to connect them to report status into the Migration Hub. It's important to note, nothing automatically reports status to the hub. You have to authorize it using IAM first. And so this page will give you a little bit of overview of each tool and take you to their documentation, learn more how to buy it in the case of tools that you need to purchase on the marketplace, and how to connect it to the hub. And so once a migration lead has picked the tools they want to use, you group servers you start migrating in those tools. This is for the start migrate scenario. And those servers automatically appear in the Migration Hub. And then you group them as applications. And then this applications list in the hub, which is in our migrate section, shows the first status type we track in the Migration Hub. That's the application migration status. So as David mentioned, there's 2 levels of tracking that we offer. And so this is the highest level. So you see the app grouping. So all the servers and databases that you put into that application appear inside that app, and that overall grouping can have a status. And that's why you see different colors here for in progress, not started, and completed. And then if I'm the migration lead for a particular app, I'll go into that application, and now in the diagram up top and the table down below, I see the detailed migration status for either that server or database that I'm moving being automatically reported from the tool. So SMS, DMS, Cloud Endure, Racimi all automatically report into the hub when authorized, and I can see it all here on the applications page. And then just as important, if I'm the migration lead or another key stakeholder in my organization, I can go to the top level dashboard and I can see key metrics about my migration. And so here I get the most recently updated apps. If you notice in the center, there's an error in that app in the center, and so I can very quickly troubleshoot issues as they arise. And then the 2 below below the most recently updated apps give you a high-level view of the status of moving your portfolio. So completed applications by migration status, and then at the bottom you get migrated applications over time, and so you can get a feel for the velocity of how moving your portfolio is going into AWS.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for the walkthrough. So, do you think there's a particular use case that customers should be focused on right now, or do you think this is a tool that can be broadly applied to any kind of migration task?
Yeah, so it's important to understand how migrations happen. There's a bunch of different ways to migrate a single application. Almost a spectrum, where you have on one side rehosting, which basically means taking the servers as is, copying the architecture and bringing it over to AWS. On the other side, you have rebuilding the entire application from scratch, re-architecting in a very cloud-friendly way. And there's a bunch of variants along the way. Mm-hmm. Initially, we're focused more on this side, what we call rehosting and replatforming. And we're going to be moving more and more towards the other side as time goes on in the future. So right now we're focused on helping customers who are moving applications that are keeping largely the same architecture when they go into the cloud. But yeah, that's our core use case for now.
Okay, and how can customers get started with the service today? I think I heard Adrian mention in his keynote that the service is in US West.
Well, the service, great question. The service works in every region where those tools exist. So you can go to just about any region where there's SMS, DMS, Cloud Endure, or Racimi, and you can track your migrations there, because the reason that's important is that customers often will migrate into multiple regions, right? And you want to see how it's going across all those regions in one place. So that status is actually sent back to US West 2, to Oregon, but you can use it in any region you're in.
Okay, okay. And the service just appears in the console in all regions, or it appears in the US West 2 region?
Yeah, it's in the console in all regions.
Okay,
you can find it there, and yeah, we're excited to have you come in and check it out. We'd love to hear feedback on it.
Fantastic, and if customers want to get feedback to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
There is a little link in the bottom right of the console that says send feedback, and that sends an email right to Mike and I and the rest of the team.
Great, excellent, super. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We haven't got any questions from the viewers on Twitch, so is there anything else that you want to cover before we wrap up the segment?
I think that's all.
Great stuff. Okay, so we're going to close up here for now with the Migration Hub team. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll be back at 10 past the hour with Abby Fuller, and she'll be talking to some of the team responsible for AWS Glue, the new ETL service that was launched today. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.